Alright folks, it's a very quick tutorial on the Jetpack curl 35 error that you get. So basically when you get a Jetpack curl 35 error, not much of the articles or tutorials on the internet could help you because I went through the same problem and I couldn't find a proper solution. So let me explain what happens. It's like I have Jetpack within my hosting. Okay, this is my site, and if I get into the dashboard, admin dashboard, this is what the Jetpack is. This is here the Jetpack, and if I go to the settings, now the issue has been fixed. I have fixed the issue. So you would not see any problems here. So what happens is if I get into the settings, for example, if I have set the downtime monitoring in the Jetpack module, okay, so that module is open, but if I want to configure the notification settings, it will actually fetch all those settings from my WordPress.com account. All right, so for that I have a WordPress.com account which actually is getting connected or bridged with my self-hosted WordPress blog through Jetpack. So this is first thing that you need to understand, that there is something called XML Rpc. It's called XML Rpc. Okay, XML Rpc is basically a protocol which is .php. That's a PHP protocol through which what happens is the through which your website server is getting connected for certain specific tasks with your WordPress.com account. Okay, so you have a WordPress.com account and you have a WordPress.org which is installed on your server. So between these two accounts, the connection is established for most of the activities via xmlrpc.php. However, this actually is designed to make your life simpler if you actually connect your self-hosted WordPress blog with your WordPress.com account. But using this xmlrpc.php protocol, hackers could actually do a great deal of harm to your self-hosted WordPress. How? Because see, I have said this. Let me go into my self-hosted WordPress dashboard again. I have set up the brute force protection. How? Is because I have used this limit login attempts. Where is that? There is a limit login here. Limit login attempts. I have installed limit login attempts and I have activated it. So every time someone tries to use brute force attack, like guessing the WordPress username and WordPress password, they will be blocked if they exceed certain number of failed attempts. Okay, I have set that as 5, and depending on once they fail 5 login attempts, they are blocked for certain amount of time. So that is a lockout, and if 2 or 3 such lockouts happen, they are banned for a very long period of time. So this is how it is. I am basically discouraging the hackers from using brute force attack. But for that, they need to go into, for example, if I launch my website from the front end, let's say I go into the website's front end, and they will not be able to use the social logins because if they want to launch brute force attempt, then they will have to log in from the usual login that I've set, the custom login page, which is from the accounts page. Okay, they have to put the username, they have to put the password, but they will be guessing the usernames and they'll be guessing the password. So to guess the username, to actually not guess the username, they need a ready-made list of the usernames, for which they will be using some PHP queries in this user that's called WordPress enumeration, user enumeration. Using enumeration, the authoritative accounts on any WordPress installation like administrator, editor or author or contributor, they are enumerated. So by using a certain PHP script in the URL, they will be able to get the list usernames as per the user enumeration in the WordPress installation. But it is very easy to stop the user enumeration in any WordPress installation. I don't know why user enumeration is still enabled by default in WordPress software, but it is very easy to stop user enumeration. Just look for a plugin called the stop user enumeration. That is by the same name, you will find the plugin, just install it and you will be able to disable user enumeration on WordPress. So the hackers would not be able to get a ready-made list of your enumerated usernames. So if you they have some authoritative usernames on your WordPress, that makes their work like it's now they only have to work for the other half. First they already have the username, now all they have to do is to guess the password. So even if they have the username, if they make 5 incorrect attempts or failed attempts, limit login attempts reloaded plugin will block them. So that is how you can enable the brute force attacks. However, XML RPC, when you use XML RPC, what happens is it's a protocol that avoids all such login attempts. Okay, so by using XML RPC, they will be able to bypass all the brute force protection plugins that you use on your WordPress installation, like limit login attempts or word fence or whatever you use. If you have XML RPC enabled, then all their brute force login attempts, brute force attacks would actually bypass all those securities and directly be launched by xmlrpc.com, and by then encoding their attempts, they will be able to launch simultaneous attacks with any one username. They can try 1,000 or 100 passwords combinations using XML RPC. So especially if you do not have two-factor authentication, as I have two-factor authentication enabled on my site, but some of you might not have two-factor authentication on your site. So by using that, if you happen to have a weak password, they will be able to break through to your admin section, okay, by using the XML RPC attack. So that is why XML RPC is dangerous. Okay, so how do you, if you want your Jetpack to be able to work with your WordPress.com, then you have to have XML RPC accessible by your Jetpacks. Okay, if your WordPress.com or your Jetpack is not is prohibited from communicating through XML RPC, then there will be an error. There will be different types of errors with your Jetpack installation or your WordPress.com bridge. It will give you a red exclamation mark. All of these things will happen. Okay, so the only thing that will solve is to enable XML RPC for Jetpack and WordPress.com, which is basically Jetpack, allowing Jetpack to use XML RPC. But if you do that, if you totally open the XML RPC for your WordPress installation so that Jetpack can access it to communicate with WordPress.com server, then even hackers can use the same method, because it's a common protocol that hackers know. So there is only one way to safely enable xmlrpc.com, xmlrpc.php, and if you want, you can use various methods to enable XML RPC only for Jetpack. So what we are going to do is, first of all, we are going to understand what are the IP addresses that Jetpack uses to communicate with WordPress.com through XML RPC. So this is a list. Okay, whatever it is saying, if you are using Cloudflare or with additional security rules or security, these are the ranges they accept. Okay, this is the page. You can note down this. I will put that in the video description. This is a list of all the IP addresses starting from 192.0.65.0 with port 24. All the addresses are listed here. Okay, if I go to the bottom, this is a list of all the IP addresses. Only through these IP addresses, Jetpack will be communicating to your WordPress.com, and it will be using xmlrpc.php. So if you can whitelist only these IP addresses, of course this list is subject to change by Jetpack, but trust me, it doesn't change very often. It's a huge list of IP addresses, so it doesn't change very frequently. In case it ever changes by Jetpack and you get any problem, you can just add the new IP addresses in this using the same method that I'm going to demonstrate here. Alright, so first of all, make sure that you have this page with you in which you have all the IP addresses that Jetpack is going to use. Second, you can whitelist, you can basically block XML RPC for all the users, all the IP addresses except for these, by using a code snippet in your htaccess file on your server. But I don't advise you to make any modification, any manual modifications to the htaccess file, because the more rules and conditions that you add to your htaccess files, the slower your website response would be. Like, your server response depends mostly on the htaccess file first, because that's whenever a request comes to your website, even if you have Cloudflare installed, if you have a lot of rules in your htaccess file, what happens is the server will go through all the rules one by one. Okay, so that will actually reduce the server response time. So try not to make a lot of modifications, only make the necessary modifications, and this is not a necessary modification that you need to do with your htaccess file. So if you want to, you can do actually block all the block all IP addresses from accessing the xmlrpc.php, only excluding the Jetpack IP addresses. Okay, you can do that using a rule in htaccess file. Let me see if I have that rule set. Do I have it? No, I don't have it. I have actually deleted that. But again, let us go back, and I'll tell you that if you want to do it, that is, I am not going to discuss how to block the XML RPC using htaccess. I'm going to show you a very easy method, and that is only applicable if you are using Cloudflare. For example, I am using a Cloudflare, and I have actually used a firewall rule. I have written a firewall rule, created a firewall rule on my Cloudflare, and you can see, using only that Cloudflare rule, in the past 24 hours, I have blocked so many attempts, 138 items in the last 24 hours. I have blocked 138 attempts using the Cloudflare rule that I've set only for XML RPC. So if I go to the firewall rule, this is my firewall rule. Okay, this is my XML RPC firewall rule. So let me go to show you the firewall rules. I have created this XML RPC whitelisting. And if you want to go into the details, this is what I have set in the firewall rule. This is just a name. Any title you can put in here. I'll show you how to create it. And I have created a list called Jetpack. If the IP address, if the URI requested is thephysicist.in/xmlrpc.php, sorry, if the request is matches with /xmlrpc.php and the IP address, this is the first condition, and IP address is not in the list of my Jetpack. Okay, in that case, what happens is it will block it. So let me go to the front end of my website. And I will try to write the even if I am already signed into my website right now as the admin user, xmlrpc.php. If I put that, you see error 1020. It says this website is using a security service to protect itself from online attacks, right? But you can go to my you can go into my Jetpack. I will show you that my Jetpack is communicating properly with my WordPress.com, as I have already shown, but I'll show it to you again. Let me go into the dashboard. That's my Jetpack, and this is manage site connections. Okay, if I click, okay, hold on. Let me go into the settings first. That will make, okay, here, configure your notification settings. If I click it, it will take me to my WordPress.com server. So you can see that there is no exclamation mark here. It is working absolutely fine. Okay, there is a proper communication between Jetpack installed on my self-hosted WordPress and the WordPress.com. But if I try to if I try to use launch XML RPC using URL, then it will give me the 1020 error. So that is how the XML RPC is only allowing connections from Jetpack and no one else, not even myself. Okay, so this is how you can do. It's very easy. In fact, if you search on the internet, no one is going to show you the problem. Okay, the first of all, if you are getting error 10, what do you call the error? Curl error 35. So there is a very easy solution. If you go into your Cloudflare, if you have set Cloudflare, then go into your SSL TLS, and in your TLS there is origin server. Hold on, I've forgotten this. Yeah, in your SSL TLS tab, go select the Edge certificates, and inside the Edge certificates, choose the minimum TLS version, okay, as TLS 1.2. It has a list of TLS protocols. One is versions, one is 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. So as you go from 1.0 to 1.3, the security gets enhanced, more and more enhanced. So security gets better. However, if you choose TLS 1.3 to get maximum TLS security, then Jetpack will not be able to communicate, because Jetpack is little outdated on the security front. It does not understand TLS 1.3. It only understands TLS 1.2. So you have to keep TLS 1.2 and not TLS 1.3. If you use TLS 1.2, you will not be getting curl 35 error. First of all, that is one thing you need to understand. I set TLS 1.3 by mistake to enhance my security, and that's when I started getting the curl 35 error, because Jetpack was not able to understand, or WordPress.com was not able to understand the TLS 1.3. It is not configured for that. It only understands TLS 1.2. So first of all, do that. Change the set the TLS to 1.2, not 1.3. That will resolve the curl 35 error. But then again, for the XML RPC, what you have to do is to first of all visit the Cloudflare. Okay, let me get back to my self-hosted WordPress. That is what I have done. So if I go to the front end of the website, okay, if I go to the front end, and here is one of my other blogs here. Okay, this is my blog, which is actually a free one on the WordPress.com system, but it also has XML RPC enabled. Okay, it works basically. WordPress works on XML RPC. WordPress.com and any WordPress installation has XML RPC by default. So if I try to request XML RPC dot PHP, okay, the same thing that I did with my own self-hosted WordPress after configuring the firewall rule. But here I cannot configure the firewall rule because I don't have access to the server settings on the free WordPress.com. Okay, so if I launch that, you see, you get XML RPC server accepts post requests only. So this is exactly the type of request that the hackers are going to use to attack your WordPress installation. Okay, but since it is on WordPress.com and this is just a hobby blog for me, so I don't really care if it gets attacked. Most of the work will be taken care of by the WordPress.com server. Okay, so that is not my issue. But if it is my self-hosted WordPress and someone launches an attack, I am definitely going to be doomed. Okay, so what I did is, of course, I use Cloudflare, and if you are not using Cloudflare, you should be using Cloudflare. This is the free version of Cloudflare. This offers 3 page rules and 5 firewall rules. So if you go into your firewall, for free, you have 5 firewall rules, and you probably won't be needing a lot of firewall rules. 5 will be more than enough. I only use one firewall rule that is protecting me from, you see, and now it was 135 or 136, now it's 154 attacks that I have been able to defend myself from. One of them is from India. That is my own attack. Okay, that is my own attack which I launched myself. Okay, so this is what how you can defend. So how do you do? You first go to your firewall rules. You can see I have already created a firewall rule, but if you want to create a firewall rule, you just click on create firewall rule. name whatever you want to name it as, let's say XYZ. That's your rule name. And when incoming requests match what? When incoming requests match URI. You can select URI full path, or you can select URI any of them. If you request URI full, then for example, if your website is https example.com / xml rpc.php. Okay, so you have to mention this entire URL. That's the URI path. Okay, but if you don't want to write the entire URI path, because this is not safe, again you will have to need one for https, one for http, one for naked domain, one for www dot. Okay, a lot of things. Okay, will actually could be there. Four options. One is for http, one is for https, then one is for simple the domain name example.com, and one would be for www.example.com. So if you want to avoid all of these, you just select URI. Okay, you just select URI and type xmlrpc.php. If URI equals / xmlrpc.php, then okay, and not or, and the IP source address select. That means the request, any request that will try to access XML RPC will have an IP address. So that IP source address should not be in a list. It is not in list. Is not in list. Which list? Here I have already created Jetpack, but if you do not have a list already created, so this is where you can create a list. You can create on manage lists. Okay, also hold on a second, go on to manage lists. Okay, you can go on to manage lists. In the lists, which will be actually available inside, you can, if you want to get into the list, all you have to do is you can select your user profile here and go into account home. In account home, you can create okay, configurations, here list, in configurations, and then you come to lists. If you come to lists, you can create a new list. I have already created Jetpack. You can create a new list. You can only have one list. To create any new list, remove the unused list first. Okay, I don't know, you can you can only have one list. To create a new list, remove any unused list first. I don't understand that. I'm very new to it. So list name, let's say XYZ. You keep it XYZ and list XYZ. Okay. Okay, 1 second. It has to be XYZ. The list has to be in small letters. Now, okay, I cannot create any new list here. Okay, I cannot create any new list because I already have one list in my kitty. So what you can do is basically inside the list, when you create a list, you can edit the list. I'm just going to show you how the list looks like. It's basically a list of IP address and comment and created at. This is auto populated. This third column is automatically populated. It will only have two columns, IP address and comment. Okay. So what you need to do is you can create an CSV file. Okay, you can create a CSV file, and as I have created here, if I go into my, okay, what you can do is you can simply create a just open on a PC, open Microsoft Excel worksheet, name it whatever you want to name, XYZ, and go to the Jetpack IP address list here, copy all the IP addresses and select this column and paste it. Alright, so you have this column contains all the IP addresses, and in this second column you just write allow. Okay, and then extend it to all the IP addresses. Now you have two columns exactly as required by the Cloudflare importer. Now you can save it as, let's say I'm saving it as on desktop, save it as CSV enumerated, the comma delimited, sorry, CSV comma delimited. You can just save it and you can click on save. Okay, now you can close this one and go back to where you saved the XYZ. This one is the CSV list. Okay, all you have to do, the Cloudflare will show you here in the list. When if you are creating your list for the first time, all you have to do is to add items. If you click on, okay, here it will give you upload CSV. Okay, it will give you the option upload CSV. So all you have to do is to click on the upload CSV and you can select this one. I have already done that, so I don't have to do anything. I don't have to repeat the process. So you just have to select the CSV file that you just created, and that's it. Once you just upload the CSV, it will automatically list all the 64 IP addresses listed in the Jetpack page. So once you have that list, okay, you have a name for that list already. So once you have that list, you can go back to the firewall rule, set the firewall rule exactly as I've told, URI equals / xmlrpc.php, and IP source address is not in the list. Which list? The list that you have created. Once you have successfully saved the list will be here. It will be available here. Okay, that list. Just select that list and go to the bottom. Then you should just select block. Choose an action block. Once you choose an action block, okay, then you just have to deploy it. Okay, you deploy that will take care of the XML RPC vulnerability which you have on your self-hosted WordPress, so that no one can access the XML Rpc.php unless it is Jetpack, and only from the list of IP addresses which you have created, which is given by Jetpack for you to use. That is how you can use XML RPC for your Jetpack to communicate with your WordPress.com account, but you can stay safe from any sort of brute force attack that could be launched to target your self-hosted WordPress. So that's it for the video. Thank you very much. I think if you have benefited from this video, just let me know in the comment section. I don't make videos on tech support, but this is something that the problem that I faced myself, and I found a solution by doing my own research. That's why I'm sharing this piece of information with you. Thank you very much.